You're listening to Inside Real Estate, your source for all things mortgage and real estate related. The show that brings you all the hottest topics and insights directly from those who know it most. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
Up, everyone. This is Paul Apostolakis, and today we have a very special announcement. Salvatore Cusmano is officially an engaged man. Brad Weisgerber is not his best man. There they are, the happy couple. What is up, everyone? Inside Real Estate. You've got myself, Paul Apostolakis, Brad Weisgerber, Salvatore Cusmano. We are, again, Inside Real Estate. Thank you for sharing, subscribing, going to your podcast app, and liking the shit out of us. Yes, you can take that down now, Natalia. We're all done. We're all done. That's all you get.
Liking the shit out of us.
Yeah.
What's up? You like that intro, huh? We should do that.
Yeah, that was a lot, man. That was a lot. That kind of shook me.
So congratulations, Mr. Salvatore Cusmano. You are now officially an engaged man. You guys went down to the Keys. So I don't want to take too much time on that, but I wanted to say congratulations from the show and all our fans. We're getting a lot of mail. We get a lot of mail a lot of times about Sal and if he's single and what he, because he makes a lot of money because he also does really well in his business. He's kind of a, people thought he was a bachelor, but this whole time he's been getting tied up and that's it. Are you excited about that, man? Congratulations, honestly.
Well, thank you, man. I guess, all dogs need to quit roaming one day, right?
I mean, that's a really fucking
pass their seeds around.
Yeah. I don't think that's a real thing.
No. I was gonna say all old dogs get put to sleep, but
all right. So today, so congratulations, man. I definitely wanted to acknowledge that. Obviously, it's a big deal. So we're really happy for you. Lindsay's a great girl. So she's God bless her for marrying him. And today we have a really awesome guest. We had him on during the pandemic. He's been on the show before. His name is Mr. Kyle Desmond. Normally he has an amazing mustache. This time he didn't have time to shave into it. But what's up, man? Welcome to the show, Kyle.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Good, dude. Wow. How have you been?
Kyle, congrats. Wow.
Thank you.
That was I did not know that was happening. That's awesome, man. Good congrats.
Yeah.
I've been married for almost 12 years. I have no advice, buddy.
No advice.
Maybe a little bit like peace at any price is what my dad told me. So that's always
There's not a lot that prepares you. It's fine until you have kids, man. You're gonna be just fine until you have kids.
No, that's great, man. Congratulations. It's awesome.
Thank you. So today we've got some interesting topics. I mean, obviously, Kyle, we're gonna talk about the market. We're gonna talk about what you're seeing. But some things I want to definitely hit on today is home price gains. We'll talk about where those are, what the number statistics came out at year over year, and it blew out expectations. On top of that, we had ADP jobs reports came out that blew out expectations. And then I want to talk about an interesting article that was written in Detour, and it's our local market here in Detroit, and it's talking about the eviction crisis that might be potentially coming up. And so we'll talk a little bit about that and if that is going to have any effect. But first and foremost, Mr. Kyle Desmond, what have you been up to?
Not much, man. Working in a pandemic. It's
growing a beard.
Growing a beard. Of course, it's warm outside, but man, just working. 2020 was a crazy year, and now 2021, and hit the ground running.
Is 2021 like peculiar as fuck right now? Like it's like we're coming off the weirdest year of all time, and like my lifetime at least for sure, right? 2020. Yeah. And it didn't really kind of like stop being weird. It's still kind of weird. You've got people, betting on things from Reddit on the stock market. What do you think's going on, Kyle? You think, what's in the water, bro? Is it the water, or is it just people are being like just losing it?
I think there's, people going stir crazy. I think that was what kind of led us to the end of 2020, and I think now you're still kind of seeing it. I mean, I think it's. And for our industry, people get, people stuck in their homes, they get sick of them, probably had another kid. I mean, there's a lot of downtime in 2020 to do certain things. And I think that people are just looking to, expand and get out of the homes they're in. And And
yeah. There's
I think it's just people aren't meant to be
caged in, right?
You can't.
Yeah.
And I think it's just. That has a lot to do with it.
I think there's been a change, a reprogramming in the human psyche. A lot of us, like we went on a ski trip, which is one of the few things you could do, right? And it reminded me how much I love going skiing, and I haven't gone skiing for years, and what a great experience that is. And now I'm thinking about getting skis and making it part of my life, right? Where prior to the pandemic, I was like, I'll never ski again unless it comes up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It like things like that. Like I don't think are going away. I don't think the outdoor activities go away. Like and also the appointment culture that we have now, where everything's by appointment. Like I want to go get my car like radio fixed, and they're like, "Oh, we're booked through the 15th." Where before they take you in there, they try to jam you in, and they've got all this. They're all discombobulated because cars are coming in, and they probably realize there's a ton of efficiency by just creating appointments and making people hold to them. Right?
Yeah,
I don't think the appointment culture is going away, right?
No, and I think that's going to continue, and I think it's going to continue to be. You'll see it everywhere. And
yeah,
any trade, any walk of life. It's just, I think you keep people, cooped up, and that's just like a, release to the wild. They want to do everything. I mean, I think I was playing golf in November.
Yeah,
because I was like, there's something to do, and it was, and I just. And even getting to the skiing thing, my wife just bought skis. I don't even think she skis.
See what I mean?
She snowboards, now she skis. So she has skis.
See what I mean?
The kids have skis. It's exactly what it is.
See what I mean? Like bikes are probably being sold like crazy. Like people have reconnected on some level.
Pelotons.
Everyone's on Peloton. But people have reconnected on some level with being like outside, and like when you rip something like that away from people, it creates a value for it that people have end up craving. That's how fucked up humans are. If you take something away that they didn't appreciate, now all of a sudden they want to have it, right?
Yeah.
I don't think any of that. I think we're forever changed in those regards. I think we go back to a little bit of normalcy, but I don't think our world is ever going back to the way that we saw it 3 years ago, right? You guys agree with that or disagree?
Yeah, there's no way we go back to the way things used to be. This is going to have a lasting impact for sure.
Right. And I don't think we really know what those lasting impacts are, but I do know one thing: home prices are up 9% year over year. Right. The forecast was like 6 point something. That's a huge. That's like a 33% undershoot if you think about it. Right. So we're up 33% more on home values. We can't really read that, but December home prices gains shot up 9% annually, right? CoreLogic reports that December saw yet another acceleration in home price increases. The company's home price index, HPI, rose 9.2%, dude. So you can take that down now and tally, but I mean, why? That's wild, don't you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think a lot of it has to do with the inventory. I mean, there's so many different variables in this, but the thing you see is, lower inventory comes. Obviously, sellers are, they're loving this because they're going to make, in some cases, 15% more than they would even a year and a half ago. But I think have low inventory. There's those price points. It's a little different, but I think you also have people want to upgrade, having more kids. For the reason may be. But the biggest thing is there's sellers who want to capitalize, make some money, but there's nowhere for them to go. So we're kind of in this place where I almost think that this will continue to happen unless the inventory catches up, which I don't see, because the inventory hasn't been great since 2018. I mean, it was okay. Now it's, let's say in the 300 to 400 range. I made an offer at a house for a buyer on Sunday, and there was 11 offers.
Well, yeah. I think above and beyond that,
driven up $35,000
immediately, right off the bat, right off the rip.
When people look at their ability as well now with the rates this low, right? I think that it's like, most people are payment people, right? They don't look at the big picture as to where are we going to be in 10 years if the value goes down 15, 20 grand. They're like, well, that payment works for me. Right.
Yeah.
So, and when they maybe got pre-approved last year and the payment was the same for a $300,000 house as a $350 or $375, whatever, right? They go out there and they'll throw the offer. They might run the numbers by their bank or whatever, or lender, and say, that works for me.
Yeah.
You know, but how much more has the appraisal guarantee been kicked in lately? I mean, is it like depending on the market, like it's an absolute must have, right?
I think you have to have it now.
Which is, it's, you know, and again, that's what you see. I mean, these offers, you'll see, you know, they'll offer 30, 20 grand more and just waive the appraisal, knowing they don't care. They just want the house. But that you have to do that in a competitive situation. That's what you have to do. I mean, I think for a real estate agent, sometimes you got to kind of walk that line of, you know, got to advise them, guys. I mean, I know you want the house, but at the point, there's got to be a cutoff of where now you're overpaying, now you're getting too aggressive, and now you're gonna. You know, I tell my clients all the time, make sure you write this offer and you get it. You don't, you know, freak out. You don't.
But dude, is it? But here's the question though. Here's the question: are you overpaying if you're getting 10% year-over-year return? So if it's a $300,000 house, you're making $30K in a year, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, to a point. I mean, think if you're buying a $300,000 house, eventually that is going to stop going up. But yeah, no, you're right. I think there's
not if we have the same supply demand issue that I don't think it's going away.
But I think my point is that to get in these houses, waive appraisals, big EMDs, you know, see a lot of free occupancy, as long as they want, whatever. People are just, it is. But yeah, the appraisals are, those are being waived left and right.
Are we in danger, guys? Sal, Brad, are we in danger of overheating, you think, in 2021, meaning that it gets away from us and houses are just going crazy and you need a lot of cash to get in and it's hard to get in again and we're still going to have inventory issues? So, like, is there a possibility where the housing market starts appreciating faster than it should be and now all of a sudden affordability does start becoming an issue, in your opinion?
I mean, I think we're kind of already there a little bit. I mean, the market.
No, not because rates are down. So the affordability
true.
That's mitigated there, right? So because rates are lower, it mitigates the affordability. My whole thing is at some point that it doesn't matter how low the rates are, things are just going to be unaffordable. But let's be fair, guys. I mean, look, Kyle, you know this. You could still buy a house for $150,000.
I think but here's the thing. I think it's market specific, right? I mean, what we see here in our backyard isn't necessarily the exact same thing you see.
9% is national, bro. That's the whole thing. That's the right. That's a national number. But I understand what you're saying. To your point, that's true.
I mean, at a point, like a market just becomes like it's almost like a gentrification of you know, affordability or neighborhoods. Like, you know, like obviously not everyone's just going to go out to, let's say, Malibu and buy a house, right? When you're comparing like square footage and whatnot, like,
yeah,
you know, it just, I think there's certain markets where it's like, yeah, Royal Oak's out of our price range now, right? And,
Oak Park might not be, right? Are you seeing that, Kyle? Are you seeing people kind of like going into like lesser valued areas from the past, like an Oak Park here locally or a Hazel Park, you know what I mean? Or like where people can get more for their money?
The problem with that is they don't taxable wise, right?
What's that?
But they don't necessarily on an affordability standpoint when it comes to taxes. You can buy a brand new home for 220 grand or 250 grand in Hazel Park, right?
But their taxes
are 12, 13,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. That's a fair statement.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff plays into it. I think that, you know, depending on what you're looking for, but I think that, people are looking. The Hazel Park has become, you know, a hot spot, has been for a little bit. Oak Park, just because of the location. Because remember, it used to be Birmingham prices you out. So you go to Royal Oak, prices you out, you go to Berkeley.
Or Ferndale.
Yeah, or Ferndale. So that was always the.
But you're priced out of all of them now.
Yeah. That's like, I mean, some of these Ferndale taxes things are incredible, to Sal's point. I mean, you see some of these things, I'm going, whoa. But yeah, I think people are looking, you know, I see some people going more north, get a little more house and land.
That area.
A lot of people want acreage or just land a lot. You're not going to get that in Birmingham. Maybe one little pocket. Bloomfield Township has some areas, but, you know, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, maybe, but it's, you know, you can go out and you get out to that Clarkston and, you know, northern Rochester and all that. You're going to get a little more land. So I think this is what people are looking for. But yeah, there's I mean, people are looking everywhere now. They just
there's no
centrally located and live in a Hazel Park or an Oak Park, let's say.
I don't. Yeah, because a lot of people can work from home, and the rules are changing. Where my job is probably going to stay at home, or I'll have flexibility, and I won't have to be in the office as much, so on and so forth. Right. So it is interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I don't think it slows down, boys. I don't. I think 2021 we see acceleration, not deceleration, in the housing market. Personally.
Yeah. I really think to Sal's point and to Brad's, I think, affordability in terms of the rates being where they're at, people, they're going to continue to look because it's just, and they can afford it. They can get a nice house and not feel overwhelmed.
Right.
The prices or the comps are validated by appraisal waivers, right? I mean, if someone waives their appraisal and says, I'll pay 25 grand, 30 grand over, I don't care. Well, regardless of however that deal was structured, whatever that PA said, no matter what, that sales price is logged. Yeah. And it's just another comp on an appraisal.
I think that's where the affordability comes in. It's a different type of affordability, right?
Yeah, you need cash.
Exactly. Most people don't have the extra cash to guarantee that appraisal, and it's a requirement in this kind of market.
So just so everybody understands,
it's a different kind of affordability that comes into play in this market.
For the audience to understand, I know that we talk about this a lot, but I just want to make sure that people understand. An appraisal guarantee is basically a house is for sale for $100,000, right? You make a $120,000 offer on that house because you want to win the house. The house might not appraise; it might appraise for max 110. Well, what you do is you appraise. You guarantee the offer up to X amount over appraised value, right? So if it came in at 110 and you said I'll pay $10,000 over appraised value, then you're paying the 120, which is what you got. Some people might give zero limit to the appraisal guarantee. We'll pay whatever.
Well, the market
so that means getting a lot more cash to buy the house. That's just basically what I'm getting at.
Right. The market movers aren't the ones who are financing necessarily that full above and beyond value. Once in a while they get lucky and the appraisal comes in, right?
It happens a lot now, actually.
Yeah, I've had those a few times.
Yeah, but
especially now.
But to Brad's point, yeah, I mean it's another affordability above and beyond, your minimum down payment, right? But the funny thing is depending on what they were going in with originally, right? It's super easy to restructure that loan. Hey, instead of 20% down, you're putting 15 down. PMI rates have been more than halved in the past 2 years, right? Yeah. So it's like,
so what do you? Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think is gonna So obviously we've got a product versus demand problem, right? Like there's not enough product, right? Which are homes. So this leads me to the next topic, which is pretty interesting. So there's an article written here locally about the potential crisis in the rental market, and where 30% of people that make $50,000 or less are in default. Wrong one, Natalia. That's the jobs report. We're going to go to the third one. So basically, 30% of people that make $50,000 or more or less are behind on their payments, right? And they can't be evicted because there's rules against being evicted, right? So does that now become? So it's in Detroit. So a moratorium provided eviction stopgap temporarily, right? So there's a stopgap right now. People can't get evicted right now, basically, even if they're behind. So what happens when that gets lifted, right? And now there's a bunch of rental properties that are vacant. Do we potentially see investors liquidate their rental properties to get out from under that? Do you see what I mean? Natalia, you can take that down. Thank you very much for that. You see what I'm saying? Like, is that a possibility?
I think that those numbers are probably skewed heavily to a degree in what we're thinking about. Like, and you got to think more about like the larger complexes. I think that's more or less probably where people are not making their rent versus like an actual home that they're renting, right? Because you got to think of the flexibility that the owners of, let's say, a single family or a 2 or 3 unit, 1 to 4 unit residential property, they don't have to make their mortgage payments. They can go into forbearance. So they just pass a buck to the servicer, but there's no payments to be skipped on, let's say, like a large commercial blanket loan that you have for,
You got to pay them due. You got to make it. You got to make it right.
150 unit
That goes crazy.
rental property.
Yeah, and if you're a renter, you're not getting forbearance type. You're just getting a moratorium on paying your rent. You still owe all that rent back, right?
Yeah.
Whereas on a mortgage, what they do is they basically put on the end of the loan where you don't really feel it as much. So these people aren't going to be able to afford, first of all, coming up with 3 months worth of rent. That's numero uno. Then you're going to have a problem for these people to get evicted, because a lot of them are going to squat potentially, right? There's squatter laws. And then once you do get them out, they got to get them re-rented, and a lot of people, instead of renting, are opting to buy right now, right? So what does the investor do? I'm going to sell these houses now where I can get a pretty penny for them, right? Yeah. So that, in my opinion, could be a situation where we see more houses coming on the market because of that.
Yeah, I just don't think there's as much of a because you can restructure your forbearance accordingly. Okay, we didn't cash flow for 3 months, right? Or 6 months or whatever it was, but we added all that to the end of our mortgage.
Right.
You still have an asset that, okay, if you think about how long it takes to necessarily pay that loan off with investor or tenants, right? I mean, what's another 6 months tacked onto the back of your mortgage, right?
Right.
And they're probably in a position of equity, right?
Right.
So they probably don't need to sell. They'll just find another tenant. But the bigger issue is big apartment complexes.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see a big influx of investment properties coming to market because, to Sal's point, with home values rising so much, that is a great asset for these people to have.
But they can also sell it for a mint.
They can, but then they don't have the cash flows, and the whole reason to get an investment property is to have the cash flows.
Yeah, but why? If you're going to make 150, let's say you have 5 houses and each of them appreciated at 10% or over the last 2 years, or call it 5% over the last 2 years, right? Or whatever it is, they've made so much money. It's like having a stock, right? At what point do
you got to look at it? It's like an IRA or 401k. Like you don't start taking draws till you're done. Right? Because essentially, yeah, I mean, listen, if they're in a position of toughness, but there's no shortage of probably tenants that they could find for it.
Right.
And someone else is paying your interest. So why would you liquidate it?
I understand that. People flip houses all the time, right, Kyle? I mean, that people do that.
Yeah, it's just a different strategy.
Yeah, it's a different strategy. What I'm saying is, if I'm an investor, if I pull my cash out, I put it on the sidelines at the high price, when there's an adjustment, I can get back in. Right. And scoop up lots of deals because cash is going to be king. And if I'm an investor, I want to be liquid. Would you agree with that, Kyle? Or what's your
I think it really depends on the situation, but I think you can see people doing that. I don't, to Sal's point, like, you got in this for a reason. That was to have cash flow.
Yeah.
I think in certain instances when it's like, depending on the area you're in, you're like, you know what, this guy hasn't paid me. I'm getting out, and I know I can make good money depending on the area you're in. You can see people doing that. Maybe a little more inventory comes on the market, but I think these guys who are, have all these different investment properties, they're going to stay put.
I think if you're anticipating a giant crash, sure, maybe sell now before, but one, no one knows that, a cliff is coming, and two, in the grand scheme of it, okay, I paid 120, it's now worth 150, right? It's still not the point of the instrument that you added to your portfolio, right? You're trying to have someone else essentially pay off something that you've owned and cash flow from it, right? Even if you break even, essentially it's like a 401k, right? Yeah. And the gains are above and beyond that, I think, right now with where rents are and how cheap money is. I mean, I got a guy who bought a 2-unit, I'm sorry. Mortgage is like $1,200 all in, taxes and insurance. It's like $2,500. I mean, why would he sell that?
Yeah, I guess I'm playing devil's advocate more than anything. I'm looking for something that.
Yeah, I know. I get what you're saying, Paul. I get where you're coming from, but to Sal's point is, I mean, let's say these guys do get out from they go make their 30, 40 grand, but they want to continue to do it. Now they're back with everyone else trying to buy these properties, and they're in a.
Yeah, there's no shortage.
They're overpaying for something, and now they're like, what did I do?
So that's not going to happen. Right? So how the fuck are we going to have more houses?
We're not. I would say, if anything, if I had a bunch of investment properties that I had accumulated a bunch of equity, and all of a sudden with increasing prices, I mean, I'm keeping that house, and I might look at refinancing, taking cash out of it, so I still have that I still cash in on that equity, right? And now I have, with money so cheap, I have a lower payment, and it just helps the cash flow even more. And I have the extra money from the investment property to look at potentially buying another one if a dip comes.
Yeah, so we're fucked. I mean, housing prices are going to keep rising. We're gonna keep seeing a lot of action. 2021 for sure is going to see a lot of action, at least until the third quarter. I feel like. Would you agree with that, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, if it's anything like 2020, it won't stop. But I think that when we come out of this, hopefully by the third quarter, and some things gets back to normal, but some type of way, you could see a little bit of a slowdown, but. Well, there's so many buyers out there.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's just going to keep going.
To the price point part of it, right? I mean, let's also look at when values actually had recovered from the major shock of, 2009, 10, whatever, right? I mean, we didn't really necessarily get back to, pre-market values or pre-crash values until what, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
So look at everything else relative in your life, right? How much did a car cost in 2007 versus 2020? How much did education
you can buy a Neon for $12K, bro?
Yeah. How much did education cost?
Yeah.
Right. How much did living cost? So if you look at that proportionally, and how much were rates back then, right? So you look at some of the things proportionally, and I don't think we're like too far off from being just normal. I don't think that like the price points that we're looking at right now are crazy or out of control. I mean, when you look at hey, what does a 2020 F-150 cost versus a 2007?
Yeah,
probably like a hell of a lot more than what a house, the difference in housing prices. I mean, when we do refis, right, and we look at like what someone paid for a house in 2003 versus now,
yeah,
we're starting to eclipse them. I'm like, damn, if you sold this thing, you'd only make 20 grand. You bought it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think it's all to a degree relative, and we got to kind of look at like some other points and also wages too, right? How have those come up? Have they stayed down? What's the average, college graduate salary, so on and so forth. There's other things to look at than just what was it last year and what is it now.
Right.
So
sorry about that, guys. I got that up. So on top of all this news, right? Then we start thinking, oh, well, jobs are bad, right? So this gets me to my next topic, right? Jobs are bad. We're not going to be able to afford houses. Well, ADP numbers came out. They were expecting 50,000 new jobs, right? And Natalia, can you bring the graphic up? $174,000 versus $50,000. 50,000 jobs. Sorry, 174 jobs in January versus 50,000 new jobs estimated by ADP. So that's a huge overshoot. Generally speaking, if you're off by like 20 or 30,000 jobs, you'll see a spike in the stock market because people feel good, right? So let me read this. Private firms added 174 jobs in January, well above the 50,000. The biggest gains came from healthcare and social assistance professionals and business services. Leisure and hospitality added $35,000 for the month. So close that off. So think about that. Leisure and hospitality added $35,000 job. That's a pretty positive sign.
I wouldn't think that would be the case,
right? But what's happening in our industries are people are shifting where they spend their money. If you go to Boyne, when we were up there, people were scalping tickets to get on the hill. Sal had to buy a ticket in an alley from a very like an underlord, right, to get on the hill.
Do you think that COVID has any effect as far as how many tickets they could sell capacity wise?
Yeah, for sure.
they were selling those.
Another supply and demand thing, right? So I think like those numbers, if you look at like the segments or the industries, right, it's somewhat indicative of a little bit of a bubble, right? Like a lot of people probably even quit their jobs if they were like super high risk in like the health service industry, right? Mm-hmm. So there's kind of a demand for some of that. There's probably people thinking, man, it's probably crazy right now. I can get into COVID, right? And then you look at like the professional services, it probably includes ours, right? tons of processors and whatnot getting hired. So what happens when all this goes away then?
How does it go away is the question. What makes them go away?
Above and beyond, right? Like the thoughts of like science on it, right? Because I mean that's the real part of it. But eventually, I think it's going to be okay to walk outside without a mask. Personally,
yes.
But when that happens, I think
people still will wear.
I don't think people will forget, but I have a feeling a large majority of people will throw them away and they'll be laying around like
younger people. Older people are not going to go out as much.
Whatever, right?
Not in crowds.
I wonder if, because I think it will be a large shift of people who don't or aren't worried about, going outside and spending money and going to bars and going to eat restaurants. I think they will be busy as they were before, personally. And with that being said, the way that we've set up our economy over the past year, and job industries and the gig economy and all that, right? What happens to all those people? It's almost like the rubber band, I think, snaps back in some areas, right? All these mortgage companies that are super filled up to the, they're full of operations people to handle the volume. What happens there, right? What happens to some of these other companies? And I mean, if you focus on the right things and are built for like a purchase shop in the mortgage industry, you're going to be fine, right? But if all you were doing is buying refi leads and hiring all these processors, they're going to be out of a job when rates go up or when people are, focused in different areas. So I think it's just something to think about, right? Like all these people necessarily that are being dedicated or shifted towards like the health industry or door dashing right now. Like what happens when people maybe don't do that as much, right? Or there's not as many people in the hospital.
Yeah.
It could be like another like mini shift. I think things always shift, but it might be a pretty significant one. But I don't think that like the pandemic came on in a week or two, right? And everything shut down so quickly. I think to Paul and, your guys' point that it's not going to be something that just flips off. So I'm sure things will adjust accordingly.
But I do think there's parts of things that happened during the pandemic that we don't lose. Again, like the appointment culture, right? Things like that. Like
Zoom's not going anywhere.
What's that?
Zoom or its successor isn't going anywhere.
Nope. The way we do business is different. I can talk to Kyle whenever I want and have a meeting with him face to face whenever I want because we've gotten accustomed to looking at screens, right? Our kids, our children have been programmed to communicate through screens. That doesn't, you can't unbreathe. You can't like unchange that. You know what I mean? Like you can, but somehow, some way we will, we're going to go on forward, but it's going to be, I think it'll just nuances will be different, right? Like just nuance.
I think you're right on. I think Sal is making good points because these things are you'll see a little pullback on certain, industries. Like you said, people are overloaded hiring people to help out. Healthcare, all that. But to your point, a lot of this stuff, it's almost been a year of this. You think about it. I mean, March 1 is kind of
a year. Yes, it's a year. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Kind of how in 1 year, 5 days, how you can kind of change and
reprogram
even long term as a company, as a company owner, CEO, CFO, how you do things. Like think about my wife's company built this brand new office in Royal Oak and it's empty.
Can we have it? We need room. We need space.
Can we have it?
You guys actually, they do have bars and I think like patios and all that. But so anyways, we're going to
talk after the show. I
know people then as opposed to their buildings and their offices because people are now used to having Zoom calls and doing all this. So I think it's
I think there'll be a great repurposing.
Yes.
I think there'll be
a great way to put it.
A great repurposing of real estate and commercial space. I mean, it's going to be awesome, right? To see those who kind of thrive through it, like take over some, your old favorite restaurant, unfortunately, went out of business, right? But as demand comes back up for people to be outside, right? And as long as, COVID or COVID 20 or COVID 21 or whatever they want to call it doesn't necessarily come back, which it, quite likely can or will, right? Just depending. Who knows? I mean, they might not ever eradicate COVID, but they may come up with some type of, effective treatment where
like vaccines and whatever. But like, here's the deal though. There's every year there's a new like kind of strain of something, right? SARS, but just wasn't
no doubt, but it's a virus, right? And eventually, like, not with every virus, like some of them are never curable, but there's treatments where all of a sudden it's not like you're gonna die, right?
But watch the next time that someone says there's a new virus, like a swine variation of a bat eating whatever, right? And then all of a sudden they're like they're it's coming. You're gonna see fucking like fear, like real fear. People are traumatized by this experience, whereas before we heard SARS, we're like, that ain't getting me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Bird flu,
well, I mean,
Ebola,
talking about two different experiences. Talking about two different experiences, bro. I mean, none of those shut down economies for months and upon months.
But there's an argument.
There'll be some gun chat, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no,
people will be freaked out, right? But
100%.
That's what I mean. It's not going to be full shutdowns again. I'm just saying people won't go to restaurants as much, even if there isn't a shutdown.
Right. Yeah, but I think the majority of people won't live in fear. Because listen, man, I mean, it's different here, right? But you go down to Florida and
they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're all from no one lives there.
Right.
They're all traveling from anywhere saying, fuck where I came from. Because this is awesome, right? You're sitting down at the table, you don't have a mask on, you're eating, you're drinking. Maybe I'll get a corona, maybe I won't. Maybe it's the state of mind I'm in right now that I don't actually give a shit about getting corona. But
are you saying corona? Like a corona? Like, did you have a corona while you were down there, or are you talking about corona?
I had one, but I'm saying, or COVID, whatever. Right? People are all around you. And mind you, I just think that, ultimately there's just a breaking point for people to care or not. And if you want to stay inside because of it, that's fine. And if you want to go out there and risk it, that's fine too. I mean, obviously don't try to purposely be a super spreader or anything, but I just think that human nature, to Kyle's point originally, is like they're pent up. People don't want to be like put to, or people naturally aren't supposed to be in a cage, right? So I think we all kind of have to live into and plan for the fact that people won't live in fear, I don't think. And people are eventually going to go do their own thing, and being super conservative will probably do less for you than being a little more aggressive on thoughts as far as businesses go, right? Like if I was thinking like a business owner right now, if I owned let's say like a restaurant or something, I would probably be planning to not shut down again, right? And getting after it a little bit, because there's a higher demand on that side. But
people are going to, I mean, even I was at Mount Chalet, my second home yesterday, just to go in and have lunch and sitting inside. And there wasn't a lot of people there, but
the Rock opens on Thursday, bro.
I know who owns a place, and he's like, on Monday night at 7:00, it was packed. I mean, people, I think that I read something. This was in like the summer that said human nature is like 6 to 10 weeks you can be stuck somewhere. I mean, within reason, and this has been a year, more or less, right? So I think that's the thing that
there's a huge hunger for human interaction right now.
Yeah,
there's a huge hunger, and we're gonna see those activities of human interaction potentially be different. In my opinion, it might be we're going skiing, it might be we're going here, we might be like. I just feel like people's ideas of what they want to do with their lives because they were locked in a cage is changing a little bit, where they're going to put more value on being outside with friends and family as opposed to being at a restaurant, or maybe not, but we'll see. It'll be really interesting to see what the long-term effects of the psychology of this is going to be. I'll be interested. Like, I want to know, like, what the fuck is going to happen to people as a group in like 6 months. What is it going to look like, right? So
this year will be a lot more. We'll give you a really good idea of, July. What's going to, because last year everyone was
a write-off.
I'm more interested.
It's more, everyone's kind of waiting for deep breath. We can do what we want.
Right.
I think that on the other side of some things, people are waiting for some potential, like whether they're right or wrong, right? Like people were thinking like rates are going to come up, housing prices are going to get smashed, right? I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen, but this stock market is nuts. And I think that has a lot of underlying consequences on all of that, right?
Does that freak you out a little bit, Sal? Like, you think there's a bubble going on?
I mean, you
there?
just look at like the biggest downswing recorded ever in the history of the stock market, coupled with the fastest recovery and new all-time highs. If you look at the numbers of this, suppression, which I think most of it is knee-jerk, right? Both ways to a degree, but you look at the actual cases and they haven't really gone down. I mean, it's nuts if you look at like where they started, and I think that kind of shows you as to the true like severity of what it actually is doing to real life people. I mean, yes, there's people that are dying from it, but as far as what it does to like shutting down companies or something other than like, small restaurants and some things, maybe some big retail operations, but it's not like it's actually crippled the complete infrastructure of our whole economy, right? So now you see this going up, but is it overbought? Is it undersold? Or were certain stocks right now that are like making money hand over fist? For example, like Quicken and UWM and whatnot, like they put out these earning reports and there's massive manipulation from investors and shit. It's crazy. And then on the other side of things, you have companies that are surely doomed, unfortunately. I mean, I love going to GameStop and getting a new console, right? But you can do everything on the internet and stream all the games and download the games. That's what people do. Unfortunately, it's Blockbuster, right? To Netflix. So the writing's on the wall, unfortunately, for GameStop, unless they reinvent themselves. But you got crazy manipulation, right? And I think that's a super small part of the whole entire market, which is just whatever, right? It doesn't have much of an effect overall. But you see the cracks of what can actually happen if people put their mind to things, right? And kind of the inner workings of the behind the scenes of stock prices. I think it's kind of scary. And if people kind of get a bigger view on some of these stocks that actually do have weight and have a future of these companies, right? And they manipulate the piss out of stock, it could ruin the company.
Right.
So what happened? It's kind of like a trend now. Like, think of all the people that were talking, people who have no business talking about stocks, probably me included, talking about stocks.
Dude.
I mean,
Stock Talk. I watch a lot of Stock Talk, which is on TikTok. You're right. I watch a lot of Stock Talk on TikTok, and there's some dudes that made some really good calls on there. So I'm just saying.
Yeah,
just saying. All right, let's get to 3 questions, and then we're gonna get everybody out of here. You boys have any? Well, let's see here. Mitchell Tarango, one of our best. I believe lodging and commercial will be impacted most. A ton of commercial space will switch to residential rental space, in my opinion. That's possible. I was actually looking at a space right next door to us yesterday that was an old saloon that never really did well, and they're talking about turning into a condo from bottom up. Like on Main Street, which is interesting, right? So I do believe that. Good job, Mitch. I can't believe you came up with that. So let's get to 3 questions. Why are you laughing, Brad?
It's just funny.
You guys got questions for Mr. Kyle Desmond?
Who the fuck would want to move into Dixie Moon Saloon?
Have you ever been in there? Have you ever been in there? I've never been in there until yesterday.
I'm not gonna name drop the place, man. Come on.
I went in there one time. Even the dude that owned it was like, we knew this wasn't going to last.
Listen, I mean, it's cool. I'm not trying to make fun of the space, but I mean, like moving in there, I mean, you'd have to just be an animal, I mean, because, I guess maybe it would be cool.
I mean, they're refurbishing it. The thing is actually awesome inside. There's a stage in there. I was going to keep the stage, Kyle, and put my desk up there as a throne.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I just could imagine it getting loud, but I guess I'm sure that's
they have ceiling tiles. They used to play bands in there, so the place is actually all soundproof.
Wow,
we'll have to talk about that later, Sal. But so Kyle, if you were to choose to live anywhere other than United States, where would you go and why?
Where would I go?
Hawaii?
Yeah. I mean, it's in the United States, but it's not in the.
Hold on a second. The question was, let me repeat the question, Kyle. If you had to live anywhere outside of the United States, including Puerto Rico, Australia.
Yeah. Why not?
I like that. Okay. All right.
I like that a lot.
All right.
Good one.
I like that, but I could not deal with the fact thing that there could be a giant huntsman spider under my door handle.
They have the worst animals on the planet, dude.
Kangaroo just like running around the street.
The insects, and the ways you can die.
The spiders, man.
Dingo eating your baby.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, there's so many animals that can kill you there.
No.
So that's a bad pick, Kyle.
I like it.
It's a bad pick, but it's an awesome pick.
Yeah.
Kyle, if you had a time machine and time travel was real, would you choose to go to the past and experience something, or would you go to the future to see what's coming and why?
I think I go back to the 80s in my early 20s and be like my early 20s, like party in the 80s. I think,
dude, you're right.
Like the music, everything. It's just like, wow.
Yes.
He's making a comeback. I mean, everyone, you see it all. I think I would go back. I mean, I was born in the 80s, but I was, young. I would be like college 80s would be.
Isn't it funny when we grew up, like the 80s, like by the 90s, we're like, oh my God, that was so weird. We used to do that in the 80s. Like we used to wear IOU shirts and Zeke Havarichis, right? And like, I mean, the style was funky. Everything was loud. Pink pants was not out of the question for men, right? Pleated pants.
Yeah, I mean, it's style and all that. I think that's where I would go.
Remember calling timeout so you could tight roll your pants in basketball?
Oh, yeah.
For anybody
the Girbeau jeans.
The Girbeau jeans, bro. The X brand boys. I had the Girbeaus. I had the Gas. I had a green pair of Girbeaus.
I think the real kicker to the question would be that you can't go back, right? You can't go back. Whether you go forward, you can't go back. If you go to the past,
you have to stay there,
forward, right? That would be. I
go back to the 50s where men were men.
I feel like adding that caveat kind of makes it easier, in my opinion, because I feel like you'd want to go back to the past where you already know what's going to happen, as opposed to going to the future and you don't fucking know what's going to be there.
Yeah, but if you know what's going to happen, I mean, I guess you could probably prevent some cool shit. Right, you could be like the world's hero.
You know why? Hold on. The reality of it, every movie I've ever seen of the future is like dystopian, and it's like stark, and people are dead, and there's like, right? So every movie of our future does not shed a very great light on our future.
Right.
Well, actually, except Back to the Future 2, Biff was Donald Trump, and it actually worked out. Who saw that coming? Exactly. That's the only one.
Biff was Donald Trump, and he became president.
Biff was he ran it all, baby.
Yeah. All right. My next question is,
I got it.
I really have a good one too. Okay, we'll do two more. How about that? We're gonna do four questions.
That's 4 questions.
If you house price aside, right? But if you could have anyone as your client, who would it be and why?
Anyone as my client.
The interaction of being able to negotiate with them.
Marilyn Monroe.
Anyone alive right now?
Anyone alive? I'm trying to think. I'm thinking of my life. I think it'd be fun to be with George Clooney, only because he once owned Casamigos, my favorite tequila, and he's
a G.
Traveler.
Yeah,
he's a G. Yeah, he could be my client.
I'll take Brad Pitt for 100. Yeah, I'll take the whole Ocean's 11 crew.
Yeah, but I think Clooney with sipping on tequila, looking at houses would be fun.
Yeah. All right. If you could be one character in any movie or cartoon ever, who would it be? If you had to be this character for the rest of your life. Like, would you be like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo? Would you be like, you know what I mean? Like, who would you be? Or Peter Griffin? It could be cartoon, it could be animated, whatever. What character would you play for the rest of your life if you had to pick one?
Man, that's tough. I'm trying not to do Disney because that's all I've watched.
I want to be the Big Lebowski guy. What's his name?
The dude.
I want to be the dude.
Yeah.
The dude abides.
Yeah, the dude would be a good one. Man, if I had to be a cartoon, I'd probably go Homer Simpson.
No, why Homer Simpson? You get shat on all the time.
Yeah, but he doesn't really do anything.
Yeah,
he works in the plant. He has a big job.
He kind of just lives a dream. He just does nothing. He's
He is ageless.
Yeah, he's his age. He's kind of goofy looking, but whatever.
How many days that they lived in their lives that, you know what I mean? It's been on since the 80s.
Yeah, and he doesn't do anything.
No.
Either that,
okay.
or maybe Larry David. Or Larry David.
I mean, Larry David. You want to be a neurotic Jewish man?
Oh, that guy's life is awesome. Just some rich, quirky old dude.
What about you, Brad? Who would you be? Wreck-It Ralph?
Man, I don't know.
The lemur from the Ice Age or whatever it is.
Oh God.
I don't know.
Disney movies.
I feel like I'd be like something cool, dude. I'd be like something where like I could like have like everything I want, like Popeye the Sailor Man. I feel like he would be pretty cool to be. Eat spinach and you get like strong.
What was his wife's name or whatever?
Olive.
Yeah, there you go.
You mean my wife?
Yeah.
So what about you, Sal? Sal, anything for you?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you've opened it up like quite a bit, right? I mean, probably like
open.
Spider-Man or something. I mean,
you would make a great Spider-Man, my dude.
Yeah. Except I'd have to get bit by a spider, which, you know, per our last conversation about Australia, that would be. So
let's not. So as we end the show, guys, let's not forget that Salvatore has chosen.
Please don't play the music. Stop the music. It's too much.
All right.
You already had that on your iPhone, which is actually kind of
weird. Yeah. Hey, Kyle, can you tell the audience how they can get a hold of you, man? And thank you for doing the show, obviously.
Oh, yeah, no, thanks, always having me on. It's fun talking to you guys.
So how can they get a hold of you? How can they find you? Because you are one of the best agents in the business.
Website's kyledesmond.com. You can go on my website, get all my contact information. Also on the Hall and Hunter page, Facebook, Kyle Desmond Real Estate. I'm not going to give out my digits, but they're easy to find. Yeah,
you're pretty public, man. So to all our listeners, please email Sal at sal@lendomega.com and congratulate him on his new matrimony. Let him know your story of happiness in your matrimony. And let's all congratulate him together as a family. I think everybody that's listening should go ahead and email him again. It's sal@lendomega.com. Thank you all for listening. Please subscribe, like our shit. We'll see you next week. Thank you all. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Later, guys.
Bye.
You've been listening to Inside Real Estate, the nation's top real estate podcast. Don't forget to follow us at irepodcast.com and everywhere where podcasts are available.